Nellie has a number of songbooks, some of which are very personal. And the one that I've enjoyed looking at the most during my work here at Mount Vernon shows pretty precisely what her education would have been, what her music would have been, what she was taught, and the nature of her performing life. The Washington family owned the latest pieces, the latest books from the various publishers in London mainly, but also France. And it seems that the music that she had was very current, things that were popular, things that would have been from operettas of the time, things that she might have seen in the theater, and then when you come home, play it for yourself and your family. So a lot of the music was published music. Some of the music is music that she copied because we do know that the family owned, for example, the Harpsichord Miscellany. The Harpsichord Miscellany was a very popular volume that seems to have been for learners because it has some very basic information in the beginning, information that might have been basic at the time, but that's very instructional for modern players, because it gives us an idea of what the ornaments might have been. In addition to the rudiments it also tells us what was expected in terms of decoration, which is very interesting. And it starts out with some very basic, simple pieces and very quickly progresses to some quite demanding pieces. They seem to be drawn from classical music. There's a work by Lully, for example. There's Corelli in there. There's a piece that's based on the very popular and traditional Folia bass line. And here it's called Joy to Great Caesar because it was given political words. There were a mix, I would say, of traditional music and what we would call classical music, music that would have been enjoyed in parlors of the day. But when I looked at it in the library, the copy of the Harpsichord Miscellany that the Washingtons owned was not very marked up, whereas copies that Nellie herself copied in her own hand into her own music notebooks were very much marked up with her fingerings and sometimes with lines to show various performance indications. So she did copy her own music. Therefore, we have a combination of published music and also personally copied music by Nellie. Some of the markings that really stood out to me, at first I looked and I thought, I would make a marking like that, because sometimes in these earlier editions, the right hand and the left hand notes aren't exactly lined up vertically. And to us more modern people, it's sometimes confusing to know which notes go together. And there in Nellie's music were the same sorts of vertical lines that I might put in my own music to help me remember which notes go together. So that was kind of humanizing. And I could imagine very well her teacher saying, this right hand note goes with this left hand note, and then making a specific marking to show that. So it's a small thing, but it really brought her to life for me to imagine that she was really studying her music the same way we do today. I would say there were two surprises in her music book. One, pages on figured bass. Figured bass was a technique used earlier in the Baroque period to help the player know what harmonies were needed. So we would get a bass line and then some numerical figures to give us the chords. And then there would be an improvised right hand. And more into the 18th century, we have composed right hand parts for ensemble music. And here in Nellie's notebooks, you can see that she was absolutely trained in figured bass. So she had the art of playing from a figured bass as part of her instruction. And that was very interesting to me to see how late this was continuing. Another really interesting thing to me was a tuning system that was written out, probably by Nellie. A very practical, very sensible tuning system, so that she would be able to tune her own harpsichord or touch it up as needed. And that makes perfect practical sense that she would need to do that from time to time, although we do have records of tuners being paid and of coming to the Washington household to tune and maintain the instruments.
Click the subscribe button below and the bell icon to get notifications for new videos about George Washington and behind-the-scenes work at Mount Vernon.